When I was about 10 years old, my father taught me a valuable lesson. We were sitting in the breakfast room, and he was pouring some milk into his cup of tea, and he stirred it with a spoon. And when he was finished, he took the spoon out, and he wiped it clean with a napkin, and then he held it up right in front of my face, and he said, "What am I holding in my hand?" Well, I figured it was a trick question, because clearly it was a spoon. So I played along, and I said, it's a spoon. And he shook his head, and he said, "Of course it's a spoon. But what is it really?" You can imagine my 10-year-old brain melting, because it certainly looked like a spoon, but apparently it wasn't. And he said to me, "It's an opportunity." He said, "The spoon is in itself an opportunity to experience," and get this, "the joy of using a spoon." I think this was my father's way, I suppose, of teaching me that we shouldn't judge a book by its cover, that we shouldn't take things for granted, and that in every object and in every event and in every human we meet, that there's an opportunity present. See, for my father to be an opportunist in the healthiest sense of the word, this was a virtue. And so it's no surprise that I have grown up to become myself an unabashedly proud opportunist. And I'll tell you, when I see all these faces here, and there are a lot of faces today, what I actually see is a multitude of opportunities. And I don't care really who you are, and I'm not interested as to what kind of success you may have had in life or what you've accomplished or haven't accomplished, because what I'm after actually is a lot more important than your reputation or the trappings of your identity. It's your face that I'm after. And so for the past 22 years, I've worked with a camera to make portraits, photographic portraits of people. And you may recognize a handful of these. I really like photographing celebrities. And the reason is they come to the table with all these wonderful preconceptions about what they should or shouldn't be doing. They have a lot of experience, of course, because they're always in front of cameras, they're on TV, they're on the covers of magazines, and they have this idea about what their image should be. And of course, I'm there, and I have my own agenda, and that is to remove the layer of public persona and hopefully end up with a portrait that's quite human and different from something we may have seen in the past. So in order to keep them from going into their head and manipulating the moment, because a manipulation more often than not ends up as a rather dishonest kind of portrait for me. And so I work quickly, and hopefully I can strike before they have a chance to ruin everything. This is a human rights activist talking about humanity, Aung San Suu Kyi, who I photographed in this building about 4 months ago when she was in Dublin. So it's no surprise to me, I suppose, that people insist on calling me a photographer, but I'm not entirely comfortable with this label. I mean, look, we're all photographers, aren't we? Whether you're a professional or whether you're an amateur or you're just somebody who takes snapshots on your mobile phone, to be a photographer, this is just part of life as a contemporary human being. And photography is an integral part of our life, and we are both passive and active participants in this photographic process that plays out across the globe. Sometimes we're the ones holding the camera, and other times we're the subjects. And in my practice as the one holding the camera, I don't think of myself as much as a photographer as I do an anthropologist trapped in the body of a visual artist who just happens to work with a camera. And I endeavor to engage my subjects, to remove those layers of persona and get under the mask so that if I'm successful, what I'm left with is a human portrait unencumbered by reputation, unencumbered by status or even health. And a really magical thing happens when you get under those masks. You start to see a fragility and a vulnerability that's inherent in all of us. In fact, what you're left with is a document of the human condition. And it's my contention that when we are confronted by the unmasked human face, it fills us with a comforting sense of knowing we're not alone in this world and that we are sharing in the human experience. And I think this is something that we tend to forget sometimes, this commonality. So as an artist, I try as much as I can to fix that situation. So I have been engaging communities. I've been engaging the citizenry of communities within cities, within nations, and even communities that transcend geographical boundaries to manifest the citizen as art, to manifest the citizen in the context of public art exhibitions. And because the citizen is our most abundant, valuable resource, cultural resource. So a couple years ago, I started photographing my neighbors in where I live in Dublin. And before I knew it, I was photographing people all over Dublin. And as my interest and excitement and enthusiasm about this series grew, I decided, why not paint with big strokes and the whole island, 32 counties, let's get it on. And that's essentially what I did. So I'd like to share with you some images we have our share here of famous faces as well, some of these known throughout the world, Mr. Pierce Brosnan, and some of them would only be known, in fact, to Irish people. This is a collection of people from the world of arts and entertainment, from the worlds of politics, from the world of sport, and I invite you to see a few of these here. There's Mr. Brian O'Driscoll, our rugby star. Rory McIlroy, he's probably known all over the world. And lest you think that this was, there's our Taoiseach, the Prime Minister, Enda Kenny, a couple more people. I think everybody in this room probably recognizes these faces, and there's a former Prime Minister there. So this couldn't be, I didn't want it to be, a project that was just about who's who of famous Irish faces. So roughly half the photos are of people whose faces or names you might not know, but they would definitely be known by their own friends and family. I hope that when you see them in series, that the line between the individual and the collective begins to blur. I didn't set out to make a scientifically accurate representation of the Irish demographic. That said, I don't think it's so far off. So last year in October in Dublin Airport's Terminal 2, we launched Faces of Ireland, 250 portraits representing the citizenry of the island. And they were presented without names or any other identifiable information. And this democratization of the citizen has been met mostly with approval. You better believe that there have been people contacting me to question the merit of the inclusion of certain faces, some known faces, as to whether or not they should be in the project, as they question perhaps that their inclusion might validate them or exonerate them for something that they've done in their past. But I never set out to make the heroes of Ireland. They have fancy dinners and awards for heroes. But to honor the shared human experience, this is perhaps the greatest accomplishment as an artist that I could hope to accomplish. The citizen manifested as art for the sake of art, for the sake of humanity, and not tucked away in some art gallery where only a handful of people see it, but in public spaces and institutions where the cultural impact is greatest. In fact, more people pass through Dublin Airport in a month than pass through all the galleries and museums in Dublin in a year. And the benefit to society is manifold. When you leverage this very rich human culture that we have, the citizen, and not as hero, but as human, you have the opportunity to teach our children a valuable lesson about what's truly important. We instill a sense of belonging to something greater than self, and we indicate to visitors to our community that we value our people. So I am an opportunist, and I will hold up the citizen whenever I can to be honored and to serve as a type of a mirror through which we can hopefully see ourselves reflected in the images of others. See, for my father, to a spoon, this was the opportunity to experience the joy of using a spoon. And I engage in positive opportunism because in every face that I meet, I have the opportunity to experience the joy of sharing in the human experience. And obviously, so do you. And the possibilities are really endless once we start to look at ourselves and others as opportunities. And therefore, I would invite you all to become opportunists too. Thank you.